What up, Dokkaners? I was going to make a video on the data download, and I still will, but it's not going to be this video. That's going to be the following one, because in this one, I wanted to take a little bit more time to talk about the GOKU Black Rosé. I feel like there are some misconceptions about the unit that I think need to be addressed now. It's not really that big a deal. I just want to share my thoughts on the unit and just otherwise give an overall breakdown of the character. I didn't quite do that in my reaction video. Wasn't able to drop a breakdown video afterwards, so I want to do that now. In the following video, I will be going over the data download, covering the Vados, all the Universe 6 EZAs, everything else that is coming to global, because there's a lot. Right now, Dokkan is in a really good place in terms of just general content for both sides. Global's got their own celebration. JP's got the 9-year anniversary, part 3 coming up. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. So let's start by talking about the Rosé. I feel like the Rosé is being unfairly judged a little early. I have been someone that has done this in the past. If you have been around on this channel since maybe like year 2, I was very much guilty of this fact. I used to judge a book by its cover so much that I paid for it dearly, and most notably, there was one New Year's banner where I will never forget the comments that I received over prejudging the LR Beerus and Weiss back when that unit was relevant, because I just judged the unit before I got to use it. And ever since then, I have been one to very much, say, always judge the unit after you get to see the unit in action. So I think that that is an important thing people need to understand when it comes to this unit. There is such a thing as seeing how the unit looks on paper, but then also seeing how the unit is practically. Showcases matter. This is why it's important to see your various creators, how they use the unit, see how the unit functions in a practical setting, or maybe a not so practical setting, so you can see the extremes. So let's just jump in here and talk about the GOKU Black Rosé. This unit, I will admit, one of the major issues with the unit, I do agree, is the category selection. This is not the greatest set of leader skills, because Super Bosses is still a new category even on the JP side, but JP has the added benefit of the Broly. The Broly is the overarching boss of the Super Boss category, and you very much need that Broly and all that it is capable of. Without the Broly, Global and the Super Boss category not looking so hot. And when you consider the fact that this is a collection of Zamasus and Goku Blacks, as well as Tournament of Power participants and a couple of Brolys, this is very much an all over the place nonsense category with no real, leader to galvanize the troops, to rally the troops. There's nobody here. And this Rosé and its leader skill doesn't quite help, because when you think about the other leader skill being Corroded Body and Mind, you've got another set of mishmash of characters who also really don't typically correlate, right? You got some Janembas, you got some Possessed Saiyans. Look at these weirdos down here. I mean, for crying out loud. Not a good set of categories. So I will admit that that is one downfall about the unit. This is more of a useful unit to include on the team for another category, but not so much as its own 200% leader skill. Realm of Gods, Accelerated Battle, Exploding Rage on top of Super Bosses is just ugh. But in terms of the core unit's abilities, that's where I feel like people are a little too quick to judge. So let's go over that. This unit raises attack and hold on, let me switch over here. Raises attack and defense, causes immense damage to the enemy. I want to show you guys and illustrate the stat boosting. So 30% attack, 30% defense for 1 turn, cause immense damage to the enemy. Key +2 attack and defense plus 200%. Guards all attacks for 1 turn from the character's entry turn. Reduces damage received by 6% per Super Boss category allies on the team, up to 30%. Plus an additional damage reduction of 30% before attacking. So this means that this unit has viability in the slot 1. That's the point. Launches an additional attack per Rainbow Key Sphere pin. I feel like when people saw this, a lot of the anger sort of kicked in, which I understand. What is the point of launching additional attacks if it doesn't do anything ultimately? There are other units that are guilty of this very fact. So when you see this, you're just thinking, man, what a waste of a passive. There could have been more productive elements in the passive. Launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super. Launches an additional super attack every time the character attacks 5 times in battle. Plus an additional attack plus 30%, attack and defense plus 30% within the same turn with each attack performed. So these 4 bullet points is what I want to focus on right now. I think that when you consider all 4 of these bullet points, this is what makes this unit more unique and therefore better than people are giving it credit for. Again, this could all be for nothing, in the end if the unit ends up being trash, but I feel like people need to consider this, maybe have it perhaps a little bit of an open mind for now. I really want to hit home the idea that judging the unit too soon might not be the best thing, because this is actually really, really good. Because when you consider the fact that picking up an additional attack just from a Rainbow Key Sphere, and that you are getting a 30% attack and defense boost per attack, think of it this way. you are launching additional supers without the consequence. So you have the setup, but you don't have the consequence, right? So when you're launching a super attack, you either just do the damage or you gain some stats and then do the damage, right? These attacks are going to give you the stat boosts, but not the overall damage output. So what will this do for you? This is basically extra stacks during the interval of a turn. So if you were to pick up 5 rainbow key spheres, you are launching 5 extra attacks on top of your base attack, on top of the additional super that comes from launching 5 attacks, and potentially another one from here. Actually, not potentially, you are getting another one from here. That's 8 attacks. If you pick up 5 rainbow key spheres, which is highly unlikely, you get 8 attacks. If you pick up 4 rainbow key spheres, you get 7 attacks. We're not even factoring in your hidden potential system, which will be a baseline 5, which means 10%. So you could be launching 9 attacks with peak conditions, 8 attacks with only 4 rainbow key spheres, 7 attacks with 3 rainbow key spheres. The main attack plus the 3, that's 4, plus this one, that's 5, plus this one, that's 6. And then also don't forget, I think I might have miscounted that, but still, you get the point. Plus, in these situations where you're launching an additional attack that then also becomes a super, that's a 30% attack and defense buff from just launching an attack, plus another 30% attack and defense buff from raising your stats from the super. So this is like a multiplicative cascade of stacking that is happening on your unit. You combine all of that with the damage reduction that you've amassed by having super bosses on the team. This is going to give you a ridiculously momentum heavy unit for that duration of that turn, which I think is fun. I think it's different, and I think that it adds an element of RNG to the equation that isn't necessarily the worst. Like, one of my favorite units to run is the physical Vegito Blue. The physical Vegito Blue is totally RNG based, but I think part of the fun is utilizing that roulette sort of system for the unit. What the heck am I looking at here? Hold on. I want to find this. We go to Patara. Physical Vegito Blue. This guy. This guy, with his EZA, has a base stat of attack and defense plus 40%. He greatly raises attack and defense on his super attack for 1 turn, causes immense damage. He has a great chance of launching up to 2 additional attacks, each of which has a medium chance of becoming a super attack. Damage reduction 40% against normal attacks and counters. If you launch 1 attack yourself, 1 super attack from your hidden potential, and then these 2 also giving you 2 more supers, that's 4 supers in 1 turn. It's not always going to happen, but if it does, you are greatly raising your attack and defense 4 times in 1 turn with a base stat of only this. It's such a fun time for me personally to have something like that happen. Of course, it's a make or break in certain situations. This is a much older unit now, so probably it's not as relevant, but that's ultimately, like, the point of it is just the principle of it all. So I feel like before seeing the unit in action and what it can do at peak conditions, I think that people are a little bit too quick to judge what the unit is capable of here. So that's ultimately my point with this. So if you factor all of that in, and then you look at the transformed state, the clone version, which I will admit, there is going to be a bit of a logjam when it comes to domains. And since this unit is only temporarily a clone unit, you might want to prioritize this. That is going to be a bit of an issue. So that is another L, I suppose, for the Goku Black Rose. But let's say, you know, all that aside, clone Goku Black for 4 turns, right? Let's switch over to that. We've got the domain field power bonus. We are greatly raising attack and defense, or actually we're greatly raising attack, so that's 50%, raising defense by 30%. So keep these numbers in mind. We go back to the same situation. Another L would be the fact that you lose the damage reduction after you start attacking. I do think that this is kind of a, like, why would you do that sort of thing? But maybe all of the things that we're about to see will offset the tremendous loss in damage reduction. Maybe. We'll find out. But you have a pseudo critical effect in here. You have your rainbow orb changing helping you now in here in the passive. That was another issue with the base form. I don't know if there is a notable super boss or corroded body and mind unit that has orb changing. If there is that I'm not thinking of, let me know in the comments. But that is going to be an issue, so that will be another problem. That is an L against the unit. But here you kind of cover some of that by having the ability to randomly change key spheres. This will probably allow you to pick up on average maybe 1 to 2 rainbow key spheres per turn, which automatically means 2 more attacks. But in this case, those attacks individually each have a 10% chance of becoming a super. Yeah, this is kind of low, but when you factor in the possibility of picking up 5 additional attacks, each of which having a 10% chance of launching a super, you kind of go back to this little roulette system where you could either have an abysmal turn with not that many stacks at all, or you could have an amazing turn where everything procs your way. If you do, you would be launching so many attacks, raising your attack by 50%, also by 33% every turn, or every attack. Defense goes up by 33% and 30%. All of these numbers will just cascade and cascade and cascade, and you will just get this monumental, massive momentum. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, you know? It's just gonna be a non-stop momentum builder. It's like a juggernaut kind of thing, right? I think that's pretty cool. I think that that is going to be a lot of fun. We will see how this unit looks in showcases. But I do think that this is kind of dumb. I mean, I guess I get it. Like, you lose the damage reduction because the clones go poof when Goku and Vegeta fought them eventually, you know? Like, that's the typical trope, right? You got the big bad boss, they send their minions in, the minions all get one shot because rules of, you know, conflict suggest that the minions don't do anything, right? So I suppose that's why they go poof, but I mean, come on. I mean, I guess this kind of, I think they're really banking on all the stats, honestly. I think that's the point. You've got the field power bonus that gives you an extra attack and defense plus 20. You've also got all of these extra stats here and attacks. You've got the base attack and defense plus 222. Maybe we've just got this all wrong too early, you know? Like, maybe this unit's actually going to be a lot better than we think. I think this is going to be a great unit. I think this is going to be a great asset to a super boss team that will only get better with time. This is one of those categories, kind of like the Kale Universe 6. It's going to be a long-term investment. So that ultimately leads to my point about whether or not you want to summon. I know a lot of people are apprehensive about summoning, which is totally fair. The great thing is you have an opportunity to summon for free. So I think what is going to be useful for a lot of people is to do those free summons. If they're potentially lucky enough to pull one copy, then that's great. But if they're not, watching showcases will help you decide if this is going to be a worthwhile investment now, or if it's going to be something that you're better off waiting for. This is not a Tanabata LR, so this unit is not doomed to return in about a year. Tanabata LRs usually drop during Saiyan Day. So if this were the Tanabata LR, this unit wouldn't be back until March of next year. That would be over a year. That would be a long time. But since this is not, this is probably going to be a unit that drops maybe in the next celebration on JP, a little bit after that. But we'll talk about all of that in the next video, the data download video. But this is just me giving my thoughts on it. Hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. Ultimately, this might all be for nothing. If the unit sucks, come back here. Feel free to drop a 2L. But I feel like ultimately my point still stands. Like, there are merits to units on paper. There are some pitfalls and, you know, issues, but let's give the unit a chance first. And I think I'm going to have a really good time with this unit. So that's it. Rant over. If you still watch this and you're at this point, man, you are a real one. Thank you so much for watching. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like down below. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the Rosé. Were you one of those people who also felt like this unit is on the weaker side, potentially at first? Do you feel like your views have changed by looking into the unit a little bit more? Or are you just completely neutral? You're waiting to see what the unit can do. Do you feel like this is a shaft for global, or do you think that this is a W for global? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, be sure to subscribe for more Dokkan content in the future and click the notification bell so that you'll let me know when I see more of my stuff. Do it. Thanks again. Stay tuned, and always remember to Dokkan responsibly.